Allora, torniamo a parlare di innovazione, in questo caso andiamo sull'intelligenza artificiale, perché dovete sapere che l'AI Index misura tutti i progressi delle tecnologie sull'intelligenza artificiale. È guidato da un team ovviamente di massimi esperti ed è con grande onore ed immenso piacere che oggi vi presento qua sul palco. L'anno scorso è stato in collegamento, ma siamo riusciti a portarlo proprio su questo palco, uno dei maggiori esperti ovviamente di AI, parliamo di un membro dell'AI Index e parliamo per la prima volta in Italia di Nestor Maslej, Research Manager dello Stanford Institute for Human Centered Artificial Intelligence. Ecco con noi Nestor Maslej. Ti lascio il palco.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here. Very excited to be talking to you guys about some of the important trends that are going on in the world of AI. And before I actually get into some of these trends and start telling you what is going on in this space, why should you trust me? What is it that I'm doing? What's my role? I'm the research manager at the AI Index, which is an annual report on trends in AI. It's been around for 7 years, and the report was put together in 2017 by a diverse committee of AI thought leaders, people like Jack Clark, who's now one of the co-founders of Anthropic, arguably OpenAI's biggest rival, people like Eric Brynjolfsson, who is, I think, one of the world's leading economists on AI and automation, and people like James Manica, who head AI research activities at Google. These people came together and they thought to themselves, we should create a report that is really working to tell a story of what's going on with this AI and what are some trends in this technology. To get the data that we feature in the report, we partner with a variety of data vendors, in addition to collecting some of the report information ourselves. And we've been privileged over the years to be featured in newspapers across the globe, as well as being cited by governments across the globe as well. Now, the report itself is 500 pages, most of which I wrote. And I have the task now of trying to distill that 500 pages in 10 minutes, which definitely isn't easy. But we're going to try to run you guys through, in a super fast way, the top 10 takeaways of the report. Now, the first takeaway is not super surprising. It's just that AI is getting better. But I think when you really see the pace of progress, it's quite astounding. One of the things that we did at the AI Index is we looked at how well Midjourney, arguably the world's leading text-to-image generator, could create an image of a hyper-realistic Harry Potter. And you see here on the screen the progress of those image generations over time from the first version all the way to the last version. Now, I think this slide really makes it clear how much better AI has gotten. I mean, I personally, if I'm being honest, am much more of a fan of the generation on the left. It looks like Pablo Picasso meets Harry Potter, but of course we asked for a hyper-realistic image, and we get that image much more so on the right. And I think this really makes it clear in a very tangible way how much better this technology has gotten. And we're kind of now at a point where if you look at a lot of benchmarks for AI progress, so these are tests of how well AI could do different things, AI is now exceeding human performance on most benchmarks. And there's really only a couple of tasks left, like competition level mathematics, like visual common sense reasoning, where AI has still not surpassed humans. A second big highlight is that industry is really dominating frontier AI research. If you look at the numbers from 2023, there were 51 significant or notable industry-produced AI models compared to just 15 from academia. And when you look at trends in the number of foundation models, these are again these systems like GPT-4, Gemini, and Claude 3, which are trained on massive amounts of data. You see a very similar breakdown. Industry is leading the charge, and since 2019, most of these models have come from places like Google, OpenAI, Meta, Microsoft, and DeepMind. Why is it the case that industry is dominating AI? Well, it's getting substantially more expensive to train frontier AI systems. What you see on this chart is the overtime estimated training cost of select AI models. And you can see how we go from AI models that cost around $1,000 in 2017 to those that are starting to cost 4 to 6 million in 2020, 2021. And then more recently in the last year, you have certain models like GPT-4 and Gemini, which we estimate cost anywhere from 80 to $190 million. And the reason these models are getting much more expensive is because people in industry understand that if you scale these models, that is, if you train them on more data, they tend to perform a lot better on a variety of tasks. This is something known as the scaling laws, and you've now started to see various industrial players just pump more data into the models. That obviously costs in terms of computation, and the more compute that you have, which you see on the x-axis, the more expensive the models become on the y-axis. Where are these models coming from? Who is leading the AI race from a geopolitical perspective? Well, it's really the case that the United States is on top, China is a distant second, and the European Union and the United Kingdom also do fairly respectively. A fifth highlight is that when you look at the world of responsible AI, it's really the case that there is a lack of robust and standardized benchmarks for LLM responsibility. So when you look at a selection of AI developers like OpenAI, Meta, Anthropic, Google, and Mistral, all of these developers test their models on a selection of general capabilities benchmarks. So they're all testing on MMLU, which is a benchmark for general language understanding. They're all testing on Codex, which is a benchmark for coding capabilities. And they all test on GSM-8K, which is a benchmark of how well these systems can do math. But when you fast forward to the world of responsible AI, you'll see that there really is no consensus. Some of these developers are testing their systems on Truthful QA, which is a benchmark for truthfulness. Others are testing them on toxicity benchmarks like real toxicity prompts. Others still are testing on bias benchmarks like BOLD and BBQ. But there really is no consensus. And if we're moving into a world where AI is going to become increasingly used by businesses and regular people, you would hope that there would be some standardization on how these benchmarks are used and how these benchmarks are tested by companies. A sixth highlight from the world of economics that I think is not surprising to anybody, but in the last year, generative AI investment has really gone through the roof. In 2022, we were looking at around $3 million of total generative AI investment. You fast forward 1 year, and we've now exceeded $25 billion in 2023. And another thing that I'm very excited about is that there's now a lot of very compelling data from different industries, from different studies, that AI actually makes workers more productive. On this slide, you're looking at 5 different studies, 5 different rows, that compare how quickly 2 different groups, one of whom got access to AI, the other of which didn't get access to AI, was able to do a task. And the bars in blue represent how much more quickly the AI groups were able to do a task. So there's now a lot of evidence in a lot of different studies that AI is associated with more productive work. And you see similar evidence from the world of consulting. In experiments where they gave one group of consultants no AI and another group of consultants AI tool, again, both of these groups were told to do the exact same thing. It was the groups that had AI that were substantially more productive, were getting the work done in substantially less time, and were also doing work of substantial higher quality. So that really seems to be the key takeaway here, that at the minimum, AI is a tool that can help you get your work done a lot quicker. And at the maximum, it's a tool that can speed up your processes, but also improve the quality of your work. Now, when you think of AI and you hear it in the news, the things that everybody tends to talk about are the large language models, Llama 3, Claude 3, Gemini, GPT-4. These are the kind of sexy findings that the media is really reporting on. But one of the things that gets talked about a lot less, but I would argue is just as important, is some of the really exciting developments that have been made in the field of science. And alpha-minescence is one of these developments. So for those that are not familiar, a minescence mutation is a mutation to a human protein that could either be benign or pathogenic. Scientists estimate that there are roughly 71 million different minescence mutations. Now, prior to alpha-minescence, which is a model that Google released in the last year in order to classify these mutations, it was estimated that scientists could only successfully annotate 0.1% of these 71 million different minescence mutations. Then alpha-minescence comes along, and so far, alpha-minescence has been able to successfully annotate 89% of these 71 million. That really is the power of AI when it comes to science. Ninth highlight is that, at least in the United States, and this is certainly true if you look at other countries as well, the number of AI-related regulations is really going through the roof. We've gone from there being one regulation in 2016 all the way to 25 in the last year, and this is speaking to the fact that people, policymakers, have woken up to the introduction of this technology. And these regulations aren't just coming from one or two institutions. In the United States, they're coming from a variety of regulatory agencies. Now, last highlight is that people across the globe are getting a lot more nervous about AI. What you see on this chart is you're seeing the percentage point change in the opinions people have about AI by country. So Ipsos did this really good survey where it asked people in 2022, before ChatGPT was launched, and in 2023, after ChatGPT was launched, whether they agreed with certain statements. And for the statements, do you agree that products and services using AI make you nervous? For every single country included in the sample, there was an increase in the reported nervousness. So this is really evidence that people know this technology is here and they're getting increasingly nervous. That concludes my presentation. I'll thank you guys very much for having me here today. I'll say in conclusion that I've put a QR code up for the report if you guys want to access it. Again, it's 500 pages of light reading, but I would argue that there's no better resource in the world to figure out what's going on with AI. And I'll say in conclusion that if there's any big trend that the report is really commenting on, it is that AI is here. And now it is up to us as humans to think about how we want it to become a part of our life. Thank you very much.